The camera glides over the quiet streets of Maplewood, where trimmed lawns and white fences paint a postcard of peace. The Harris house stands at the corner, sunlight spilling through tall windows, laughter echoing faintly from within. Elena Harris places fresh lilies in a vase, the same kind Daniel bought on their wedding day. Her smile is soft, practiced, a performance she's mastered over the years. Through her voice, calm and steady, the story begins. They said we were perfect together, and for a while, I believed them. Daniel enters, briefcase in hand, suit crisp, his kiss on her cheek mechanical, affectionate enough for anyone watching. His control is subtle. He adjusts the flowers slightly, correcting her arrangement without a word. She notices. She always notices. Breakfast is quiet. Daniel scrolls through his phone while Elena stirs her coffee, watching the swirl of cream form clouds that vanish too quickly. "You're working late again?" she asks lightly. He doesn't look up. "Just meetings. You know how it is." The words drop between them like stones in still water. Outside, neighbors wave. To them, the Harrises are the dream. Beautiful, successful, enviably stable. Inside, every smile feels like a mirror cracking in slow motion. Elena narrates again, her voice almost wistful. "We built our love on promises, the kind that sound eternal, but cost you pieces of yourself to keep." As the day drifts on, she scrolls through their old wedding photos, Daniel's hand on her waist, her laugh frozen midair. That girl looks alive. She can't remember when she stopped being her. Night falls gently over Maplewood. Daniel pours 2 glasses of wine, his charm flickering back like a switch turned on for the evening. "To us," he says, his tone smooth, almost convincing. She clinks her glass and smiles because that's what perfect wives do. Later, alone in bed, Elena stares at the ceiling, whispering the words they once swore before God and family. "Till death do us part," but now they don't sound like a vow. They sound like a warning. Morning light filters through half-drawn curtains, but warmth no longer reaches Elena's face. Daniel stands by the window, perfectly dressed, sipping coffee as if timing her movements. "You're late again," he mutters, eyes fixed on his watch. She forces a small smile. "It's Sunday, Daniel." His silence is heavier than anger. It's disappointment wrapped in control. At first, his criticism came as concern. "You don't have to see Maya so often," he'd say. "She's just not a good influence." Elena believed him. She wanted peace, not confrontation. But soon, peace became isolation. Her phone buzzes with Maya's message, "Miss you, you okay?" Elena hesitates before deleting it, the same way she deletes parts of herself to keep him calm. Flashbacks blur into the present. The night Daniel proposed under string lights, his voice trembling with love. "You're my forever, Elena. No one will ever love you like I do." Back then, it sounded like devotion. Now, the words echo like a threat. At dinner, he comments on her dress, too bright for his taste. "You're not 20 anymore," he says with a half smile. The insult is wrapped in tenderness, but it cuts clean. She nods, changes quietly, and returns wearing muted tones, the colors he prefers. In his world, compromise means obedience. When Maya finally visits unannounced, Daniel's irritation sharpens. "Didn't expect company," he says flatly. Maya studies Elena's eyes, once full of fire, now dim. As they sip tea, Maya whispers, "You don't seem happy." Elena forces a laugh, her hands trembling slightly. "Marriage is work," she says, but even she doesn't believe it. That night, Daniel reviews their bank statements, marking notes in red. "You're spending too much," he says. "Let me handle it from now on." She agrees, silently surrendering another piece of freedom. Lying in bed later, she recalls the sound of his laughter from years ago, softer, freer before control became love's language. Her voice, distant and trembling, narrates, "They say marriage binds 2 souls, but no one warns you when one starts tightening the knot." The quiet tension in the Harris home grows heavier, settling in the corners like dust no one dares disturb. Elena begins noticing small inconsistencies. Daniel's shirt smelling faintly of a perfume she doesn't own. Receipts tucked into his wallet for places they've never been. He explains them away with ease. "Client dinners," he says smoothly, smiling just enough to seem believable. But the smile never reaches his eyes anymore. Late at night, while Daniel showers, his phone buzzes against the dresser. A message flashes briefly. Can't stop thinking about you. The name is saved as Martin Office. Her breath catches. When he emerges, towel around his waist, she forces her voice steady. Martin texted. Something urgent. Daniel glances at the screen, deletes the message, and replies with a cold grin. Work never ends, does it? He's careful but not careful enough. The lies form patterns. Business trips that don't match his company's calendar. Meetings that end past midnight. When Elena calls the office one afternoon, a secretary mentions he's been out with Sophie again. The name lodges in her chest like a shard of glass. Meanwhile, Daniel's other life unravels in silence. Sophie, bright and idealistic, believes she's fallen for a man trapped in an unhappy marriage he plans to leave. She doesn't know the depth of his deceit, or the debt hanging over him, hidden from both women. To Daniel, love has become a currency, and he's running out of both. At home, Elena finds herself living beside a stranger. She watches his reflection in the mirror, the way he adjusts his tie, the way his eyes linger on himself longer than on her. Her narration returns, tinged with sorrow. It's strange how someone's absence can fill a room more than their presence ever did. That night, she sits alone in the dark, replaying his words from their wedding video. You're my beginning and my end. Now they sound like a prophecy, one written in deceit. When Daniel returns, he kisses her forehead, his phone lighting up behind him. A soft chime, a name, Sophie. He doesn't see Elena's eyes open. She whispers to the dark, her voice barely audible. I know. The morning after another sleepless night, Elena finally gathers the courage to confront Daniel. He's buttoning his shirt, humming softly, too calm for a man whose lies are about to be exposed. Who's Sophie? She asks, her voice trembling but clear. The question freezes the air. Daniel turns slowly, face unreadable. What are you talking about? Her hands shake as she holds up the printed receipt she found in his jacket pocket. Dinner for two at a hotel restaurant. You said you were working late that night. Daniel studies the paper, then laughs quietly. A sound sharp enough to wound. You've really lost it, haven't you? You're seeing things that aren't there. He moves closer, voice soft, dangerous. You've been acting paranoid for weeks, Elena. Maybe you need help. The words slice through her. He wraps his arms around her shoulders, feigned comfort disguising domination. You know I'd never hurt you, he whispers, but you can't keep making up stories. That night, his charm shifts into calculation. He changes his phone password, deletes call logs, locks his laptop. When she asks why, he smiles. Privacy, darling. Everyone deserves that. She wants to believe him, but every locked screen feels like another wall closing in. Days blur into weeks. Daniel begins checking her phone, her purse, her tone. He comments when she spends too long outside, when she forgets to text. Just making sure you're safe, he says, his words soaked in false tenderness. The gaslight burns brighter, and she begins doubting her own memory. Elena starts keeping a secret journal, thin pages hidden inside an old cookbook. Each entry is a fragment of sanity. Times, dates, words he spoke, the way he looked at her when he lied. It becomes her refuge, her proof that she isn't losing her mind. One evening, while Daniel watches TV, she writes quietly at the kitchen table. He wants me to forget the truth, but I will remember everything. As he turns toward her, she snaps the book shut and smiles. Just writing recipes, she says. Daniel nods, half believing. The flickering television light catches his face, part shadow, part charm, all menace. In her voiceover, Elena whispers, the cruelest thing about manipulation is that it makes you question your own reality. The house is quiet, save for the faint ticking of the kitchen clock. Elena folds Daniel's laundry with mechanical precision, shirts perfectly aligned, sleeves smoothed flat, until her fingers stop mid-motion. There, on the collar of his white dress shirt, is a faint smudge of lipstick, a deep coral shade she has never worn. For a long moment, she simply stares at it, the stain glowing under the afternoon light like proof of a ghost she's always felt, but never seen. She doesn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, she studies it and the curve of the mark, the softness of it. Sophie, she thinks. The name she's whispered only in secret. Her heartbeat slows, not from fear, but from a cold, hollow calm. That evening, Daniel comes home cheerful, his smile polished and practiced. "Missed you today," he says, placing a kiss on her cheek. She almost laughs, not from humor but from the absurdity of the performance. "How was work?" she asks gently. "Busy," he replies without looking at her, his eyes already on his phone. Over dinner, he talks about clients, plans, investments, a life that sounds more like fiction than fact. Elena listens, nods, and memorizes every detail. She's no longer his wife. She's a witness collecting evidence. Later, she enters their bedroom, now more stage than sanctuary. Daniel showers, humming softly behind the bathroom door. She picks up his shirt again, tracing the lipstick stain with her fingertip before tucking it neatly back into the closet. A silent declaration. "I know." When he lies beside her that night, the room is thick with silence. His breathing is slow, steady, unbothered. Elena lies still, eyes open, feeling the vast distance between them. The space once filled with laughter now occupied by lies. Her narration drifts like a whisper through the dark. There's nothing lonelier than sharing a bed with a stranger who used to know your soul. Daniel's hand brushes against hers in his sleep, and she flinches. Every touch now feels like a performance. Every word a line rehearsed too often. She turns away, staring at the wall until the first light of dawn paints it pale gold. How long, she wonders silently, can love survive when one heart wants freedom and the other wants control? The mask begins to slip. Daniel's confidence, once smooth and unbreakable, now trembles under the weight of exposure. It starts with a phone call he doesn't take, the name Sophie flashing on his screen while Elena watches from across the room. His jaw tightens. He silences the phone, mutters something about a client, and retreats into his office. But that night the call comes again, louder, angrier. Elena hears it through the thin walls. Sophie's voice cracking, trembling, furious. "You lied to me, Daniel. You told me she was gone. You said you were getting a divorce." There's a pause, then Daniel's reply, low and venomous. "Calm down, Sophie. You don't understand how complicated this is." Elena freezes in the hallway, every syllable slicing through her like glass. She presses her hand against the wall, listening, not as a wife, but as a stranger, collecting proof of her husband's rot. Sophie's voice rises again, desperate. "You used me. I believed you, and now I look like the fool. I'm done being your secret." Daniel's calm fractures. "Don't threaten me," he snaps. "You have no idea what this could do to both of us." The sound of something slamming, a desk, a fist, echoes down the hall. Elena flinches but doesn't move. In the silence that follows, she hears his breathing, sharp and uneven. "You'll regret this," he says finally, voice barely above a whisper. The line disconnects. When Daniel steps out moments later, his face is pale, hands trembling slightly. He notices Elena standing by the doorway. "Who was that?" she asks softly. His eyes flicker with the familiar chill. "Work, don't start this again." But Elena doesn't argue. She simply nods and steps aside, her expression unreadable. Inside, something shifts, the last thread of illusion snapping quietly. Her narration flows over the scene, heavy with realization. He wasn't just lying to me. He was lying to everyone, including himself. Daniel spends the rest of the evening pacing the living room, phone clutched in his hand, muttering to himself. The once composed husband now looks like a man cornered by his own deceit. Elena watches him from the hallway, eyes hollow yet alert. For the first time, she doesn't see her husband. She sees a stranger unraveling, dangerous, desperate, and unpredictable. Rain lashes against the windows, relentless and cold, as if the sky itself senses what's coming. Elena stands in the dimly lit living room, fingers trembling as she stirs her tea. The clock ticks toward 8 p.m., the time Sophie promised to come. Her heart races, not with anger, but with something quieter, heavier, the need to understand. The doorbell rings. Sophie stands there, drenched and shivering, mascara running down her face. For a moment, neither woman speaks. The silence between them holds everything Daniel ever broke. Trust, truth, and two separate lives built on the same lie. "Come in," Elena finally says. Her voice is steady, almost gentle. Sophie steps inside, eyes darting around the house. "I didn't come to fight," Elena continues. "I just need to know if any of it was real." Sophie hesitates, then whispers, He told me you were leaving him, that you didn't love him anymore. She laughs bitterly. Guess I wasn't the only one being played. They sit opposite each other, the storm roaring outside like a warning. Elena studies the young woman. Not a rival, but a reflection of who she used to be. Hopeful, trusting, blind. He makes you believe you're special, Elena says softly, until you realize you're just another piece in his story. The sound of a car door slamming cuts through the rain. Both women look up. Daniel bursts through the front door, soaked, eyes blazing. "What the hell is this?" he shouts. Sophie stands. "You can't control this anymore, Daniel." "Sit down!" he barks, his voice cracking under panic. He sees Elena's calm expression, the one thing he can't control, and it unravels him completely. Words turn into shouting. Accusations fly like shards of glass. Then a sudden movement. Daniel reaching for the drawer. The metallic click of a gun shatters the air. "Daniel, stop!" Elena screams. Sophie steps forward, voice shaking. "You don't have to do this." A single shot explodes through the storm. The sound swallows everything. Thunder, rain, breath. When silence returns, only two figures remain standing. One trembling, one lifeless. Elena drops the gun to the floor, her face pale, her heartbeat echoing louder than the rain. In the reflection of the window, lightning flashes, and for a split second her expression hardens. Red and blue lights wash over the Harris residence, flickering through rain-soaked windows. The once perfect suburban home now stands like a silent witness, its walls heavy with secrets, its floor stained with truth. Detective Laura Keene steps out of her car, trench coat clinging to her shoulders, eyes sharp and unflinching. She's seen dozens of crime scenes, but something about this one feels rehearsed. Inside, chaos breathes in whispers. Paramedics wheel Sophie's body toward the ambulance, a pale hand slipping from under the sheet. Daniel sits on the couch, blood on his temple, wrapped in a blanket. Elena stands nearby, her face ghostly calm, eyes fixed on the rain outside. Laura's voice cuts through the murmurs. "Tell me what happened." Daniel looks up, trembling but controlled. She came here uninvited," he says, glancing at Elena. "She was unstable. She pulled the gun. It went off during a struggle. Elena tried to stop her." His words are smooth, measured, too practiced. Elena doesn't speak. Her hands are clasped tightly in front of her, knuckles white. When Laura turns to her, she whispers only, "It all happened so fast." Laura crouches near the bloodstain by the fireplace. Something's off. The bullet hole angles downward, too precise for a struggle. She follows a faint trail toward the rug. Wiped recently. Her instincts sharpen. "Has anyone touched anything since it happened?" Daniel stiffens. "Of course not." Later, while officers collect evidence, Laura glances toward Daniel's study. The computer screen glows faintly. Password locked, recent data cleared. "Interesting," she murmurs. She spots the faint imprint of a phone on the desk, but no device in sight. Outside, the rain begins to ease, leaving behind an unnatural stillness. Laura watches the couple from the doorway, the husband rehearsing control, the wife sinking into silence. There's something unspoken between them, a shared look that's neither guilt nor grief but complicity. Her narration begins, low and thoughtful. Every crime scene tells a story, but sometimes the story the survivors tell isn't the one the evidence wants to speak. As the body bag is loaded into the van, Elena finally meets Laura's eyes. For the briefest second, something flickers. Not sorrow, but relief. Laura notes it quietly. I've seen that look before, she thinks. Not from victims, but from survivors who've stopped being afraid. Weeks have passed since the night that tore the Harris household apart. The house is quieter now, the scent of bleach replacing the memory of blood. Reporters have moved on, and the world has painted Elena as the portrait of resilience, the perfect widow in mourning. At Daniel's side through tragedy, now standing alone in grace. She attends interviews with a trembling smile, her voice breaking in rehearsed sorrow. "He tried to protect us," she says, eyes glistening just enough for the cameras. But when the lights dim and the microphones are packed away, her reflection stares back at her in silence, colder, calmer, unflinching. Daniel, still alive but broken, hides in a small apartment near the edge of town. His head injury healed, but his mind is unraveling. Every night he dreams of Sophie's face, the sound of the gun, the way Elena looked at him afterward, not with fear, but with knowledge. He tells himself he did the right thing, that it was an accident, but guilt bleeds into every drink he pours. Detective Laura Keene hasn't closed the case. Something in her gut refuses to rest. She revisits the scene, replays every word, every tremor in Elena's voice. When a construction crew begins repairs in the Harris basement, they find something unexpected wedged beneath the warped floorboards. A small leather journal, pages smeared with ink and grief. Laura takes it to her desk late that night. The first page reads, "If I disappear, it wasn't an accident." She flips through the entries, each one a record of manipulation, isolation, and fear. A chilling portrait of Daniel's control, but also something else. Small coded lines that sound less like despair and more like calculation. Meanwhile, Elena visits Daniel one last time. The air between them feels electric with unfinished words. "You're not sleeping," she says softly. He laughs bitterly. "How could I? You think I don't see her every time I close my eyes?" Elena leans closer, voice calm. "Maybe you're not seeing her. Maybe you're seeing what you did." When she leaves, Daniel stares after her, a tremor in his hands. Something about her calmness terrifies him. More than the truth, more than the guilt. Back in her car, Elena exhales, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips. The mask of mourning hasn't cracked. It's simply evolved. Detective Laura Keene sits across from Elena in a stark interrogation room, the hum of fluorescent lights filling the silence. The walls are bare, the air heavy as if every sound is amplified. On the table lies a small recorder, evidence recovered from Daniel's office phone. Laura places it carefully in front of Elena. "Listen," she says simply. The tape clicks to life. Daniel's voice trembles, almost a whisper. "She made me do it. She wanted her gone." The words hang in the room, jagged and impossible to ignore. Elena's hands clench under the table, but she doesn't move. "Not yet," Laura leans forward. "Do you want to tell me what that means?" Elena exhales slowly, eyes fixed on a spot beyond the room. The weight of years, lies, and control presses down on her. She doesn't cry immediately. She doesn't plead. She simply begins. He always needed me to believe it was my fault," Elena whispers. Her voice cracks, not with guilt, but with the raw exhaustion of survival. She recounts the manipulations, the isolation, the endless erosion of her autonomy. The journal, the deleted messages, the constant monitoring, all of it laid bare in words she's never spoken aloud. "And Sophie," she continues, voice quiet, almost inaudible. "I never wanted her hurt. I wanted him to stop, to see what he was doing to me. The plan, it was supposed to scare him. Just scare him. I never imagined—" Her throat tightens, the memories striking like shards. The shot, the chaos, Sophie's fall, a single moment unplanned, irreversible. Laura listens without interruption, pen hovering over her notebook. Elena doesn't look at her. She stares at the wall, as if the room is no longer a room, but a corridor of every memory she tried to forget. When the tape clicks off, silence falls, heavier than before. Elena's shoulders sag, relief and exhaustion mingling. She finally allows herself a single deep breath, tears welling but not spilling. For the first time, she is told the truth. Not to the world, not to the police, but to herself. Laura leans back, watching her closely. The story they tell in public is rarely the whole story, she thinks. Sometimes the truth is buried in whispers, confessions, and silence. Elena rises slowly from her chair, the weight of years pressing on her back. But in her eyes there is clarity. The last of the illusions has fallen. The night is still. The lake's surface smooth like glass, reflecting the silver moon above. Daniel grips the steering wheel with hands shaking, mind a storm of guilt and rage. Memories flash unbidden. Sophie's pleading eyes, Elena's silent calm, the guns recoil. Every echo twists in his chest like a knife. He drives without thought, tires crunching over gravel, heart hammering. The water calls to him, dark and endless, a place where control, lies, and fear might finally dissolve. He reaches the familiar edge where they once celebrated anniversaries, the wooden dock creaking beneath his feet. Daniel pauses, staring at the reflection of the moon fractured by ripples. "Forever," he whispers, fingers tightening on the wheel. The word tastes bitter now, hollow. He thinks of Elena, of the careful composure she wears like armor, of the journal she kept, of the confessions she made. She knows everything. She always knew. Minutes later, the car glides into the lake with a shuddering splash. Water consumes the engine, swallowing his last breaths of control. Darkness closes in quickly, leaving only ripples and the faint scent of fear on the wind. Days later, a recovery team hauls the vehicle to the shore. Elena stands at the edge, coat drawn tightly around her, eyes unreadable beneath the pale morning light. The crowd murmurs, reporters, police, neighbors, but she hears none of it. She doesn't flinch, doesn't speak. In her mind, the wedding vows echo again. Forever. She shakes her head softly. Forever was never meant to be this. Detective Laura watches her from a distance, noting the absence of grief, the steely calm that marks someone who has survived more than tragedy. Elena's face is a mask, but beneath it lies a mind tempered by years of manipulation, lies, and near destruction. The lake stretches silently before her, the ripples fading into stillness. Elena exhales, a whisper carried by the wind. Some promises are meant to end in death, not love. She turns away from the water, walking back toward the house. Each step is measured, deliberate, a quiet reclaiming of life. The past remains, but so does the control she now holds over her future. The screen flickers to life, grainy images of the Harris home, now quiet and unoccupied. A narrator's voice begins. In Maplewood, the Harris case became more than a tragedy. It became a story of love, deception, and survival. A marriage that promised forever and ended in death. Cut to interviews. Friends describe Elena as sweet, gentle, a woman trapped in a web she never saw unraveling. Psychologists discuss Daniel's controlling tendencies, the signs of abuse carefully masked by charm. Critics argue Elena might have manipulated events, allowing chaos to play out for her own safety. The debate is endless, divided between those who see her as a victim and those who suspect a silent orchestrator. Footage of the recovered journal scrolls across the screen. Handwritten lines, tense and precise, reveal years of fear, planning, and quiet defiance. A forensic expert highlights entries detailing manipulations, threats, and the night Sophie came to the house. The audience sees Elena's mind, sharp, strategic, haunted, piecing together control and survival in equal measure. The camera pans to her today, a warm classroom filled with students scribbling stories at desks. Elena, under a new name, guides them through narrative techniques, encouraging imagination while hiding her past behind calm, practiced smiles. Her eyes meet the lens briefly, steady, alert, hinting at the weight of memories she carries silently. Voiceover begins, soft but unwavering. Some love stories end in flowers, others in funerals. Ours ended in both. The words linger as the camera zooms out, showing her students laughing quietly, the sunlight streaming through large windows, life continuing beyond the shadows of her past. News clips replay the lake, the crime scene, and Daniel's downfall. Each image reinforces the duality, tragedy and resilience intertwined. Viewers are left with questions rather than answers, morality blurred with survival, and the unsettling truth that love, when entangled with control, can become deadly. The documentary fades to black. Elena's final narration whispers over the silence. I survived. But survival has its own cost, one measured in silence, memory, and the echo of vows that should have meant forever. The screen goes dark, leaving only the echo of her story, unresolved yet complete, a testament to love, deception, and the quiet power of surviving a life built on lies.